of forgiveness. But to do that, I wanted to show you something. This is my rear view mirror in my car. And if you'll, well, it's not my car now, obviously, but if you'll notice, there's a crack in it. Now, I won't tell you the story about how the crack got there exactly, but because my son is here. And he was responsible in many ways. But I will tell you this. I got the crack in my mirror the day I moved into the parsonage, the day we moved in. It was during the journey. Somehow or another it cracked. And at first I was going to replace the mirror. But then I decided not to. And the reason why is this. When I look in this mirror now, it's a very distorted picture. I have to really concentrate to see exactly what I'm looking at, whether it's myself, whether it's the cars behind me. The question I have for you is, what exactly do you see when you look in the mirror? There's a story about a king, a young king. He became the king, and it was a surprise to many. It was an upset of sorts that he was the king. And things started happening really well in the kingdom. Things started going their way. They started winning battles, and the poor were lifted up, and the rich got richer, and things were going great. One day, the king woke up, and it was the springtime. And in the spring, people often went to war, and it was time for his nation to go to war, and kings would go with the people who were on their way to war. Well, this king decided he wasn't going to go. He didn't need to go. Now, we're not sure why. Maybe he thought he needed a break. Maybe he thought they could handle it without him. Maybe he lost focus upon who he was. We just know that he didn't go. So on one spring day, he went outside and looked from his terrace and looked across his kingdom. And there she was. There she was. This beautiful, beautiful woman. He couldn't believe what he had seen. And he was a king. And the one thing he knew is if he wanted something, all he had to do was take it. So he took her. Now, the fact that she was married to another man didn't really seem to impact him at all, at least until she became pregnant. And at that point, the king, the young king, knew this would not look good at all. And things had changed. So what this young king did was he arranged it. So her husband, who was often battle, would be killed in battle. And he was. So it ended up, she and he got married and they had a child. Now, in the world of kings, things should be good then. Everything should be fine. But it wasn't. It wasn't. The guilt was overwhelming. The guilt was overpowering. And it took a man who was able to stand before the king and tell him what he had done wrong for him to realize his mistake. King David heard those words from his trusted advisor and realized he had sinned. The psalm we read today, Psalm 32, is one of the two psalms that David, we believe, wrote in response to this action. The first is Psalm 51, in which David throws himself at the mercy of God and say, I have sinned, I'm nothing, I'm no good. Psalm 32 is the response to that, of how we're called to live a life after we've transgressed against God. The story of David is a powerful one because despite the fact that David asks for forgiveness and is forgiven by God, we're also shown in the rest of his story that there's repercussions when you sin. There's repercussions that happen when you go against God's wishes. So today, as we begin our journey through Lent, we're going to be talking a lot about forgiveness. To be a healthy person, to grow in this world, there's 6 words that I believe that we have to learn Now, if you're a married man, you already know 3 of them. I am sorry. The other 3 words, I forgive you. See, because if we go through our lives without saying, I am sorry, without truly meaning it when we say it, we're going to live a life in isolation. Because the reality is we all need to say, I'm sorry. We're going to hurt people. It's inevitable. No matter how good we are, no matter how good we try to be, we're going to mess up. We're going to fall down. We're going to be hurt. And we're going to hurt others. So we need to learn those words. I am sorry. We also need to learn these words. I am forgiven. Or I forgive you. Because if we don't learn those words, the outcome is we are going to lead a bitter, hurt life. Because just as the reality is that we're going to hurt others, others are going to hurt us. And when that happens, we have a choice. How are we going to respond? Are we going to ignore that pain and pretend it's not there? Or are we going to forgive that person? And now some of you have been through some rough stuff. You've been through violence against you or friends, or very bad things have happened in your life, and say, Pastor, I can't forgive that person. You don't know what they've done. I don't. God does. And see, the thing we often forget about forgiveness, it's not necessarily about the person we're forgiving. It's about us. When I say I forgive you, I've begun the process of cutting that cord that binds us in bitterness. I've begun to be able to walk away from it, to say no more. That forgiveness is about me and bringing peace to my life. Now this past weekend, or actually I think Friday night or Saturday night, I posted on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and various other things to show, for people to send me pictures of what forgiveness looks like to them. And we're going to show you a couple of those examples, and I apologize to the choir, but I'm going to read these to you anyway. The first one is a picture of what we believe to be a Jewish man and a Muslim man embracing. So for that person, that's what forgiveness was. 2 people. 2 groups of people coming together despite their differences. This is a picture simply of 2 people embracing. Forgiveness is that acceptance that I forgive you. And restoring the bond once again. The third is simply just words that say forgive others, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. It's not about the person you're forgiving. It's about restoring peace to yourself. The next picture, please. Someone sent me this picture, and this is simply somebody erasing a chalkboard, wiping the slate clean. That's the picture of forgiveness for that person. And finally, a scene from The Lion King. I don't remember these characters' names, I apologize. And it says, ow, geez, what was that for? It doesn't matter, it's in the past. Yeah, but it still hurts. Ah, yes, the past can hurt. But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. A couple of people, and there's this last picture I forgot about. Now this picture, I need to describe it to the choir. This picture is 2 cats hugging each other, I guess we can call that. Now, many of you know I'm a leader in a conference for young adult ministries, and one of my young adults texted me this picture last night. And in it, I said, Kaylee, what does this have to do with forgiveness? And she said, both those cats are mine, and the one cat I've had for a very long time. The other cat is new to our house, and they hated each other. They fought like cats and cats. See what I did there? But something happened along the way, and now this is how they spend a lot of their time. They've broken beyond that, and now they've learned to forgive each other. And one more, I got a couple tweets sent to me, and it says this: forgiveness does not change the past, but it can change the future. Forgiveness for yourself and others is necessary for your happiness and evolution. Learn to forgive. And finally, forgiveness is a fundamental for our evolution towards being a better person. We have choices of how we're going to live our lives, just as David had a choice. See, we can start by thinking that it's just a little white lie. It's not going to really hurt each other, anybody. And it's easy to carry around that. But over time, those little white lies and those grudges pile up. They become harder to manage. They become harder to take care of, one after the other. And soon what happens if we refuse to forgive, if we refuse to turn to God because of the sin in our lives that we need forgiveness for, the sin, the shame starts to weigh on us until we can barely carry it anymore. And it becomes a burden. Everywhere you go, just like that king, every step he took was a difficult one. It was hard to manage. When I was in the Army, we signed up. Well, we didn't sign up. We started this process called light infantry. The idea was we would be able to go anywhere in the world in 24 hours. So to do that, we had to have our backpacks always ready, our rucksacks. And this light infantry movement, what that really meant was we had to wear anything between 60 and 85 pounds on our back. And let me just tell you how difficult it was to walk around with that burden day after day. And it's like David walking around, and it's what we're like when we walk around with the sin and the shame and refusing to forgive others and refusing to ask for forgiveness. But oh, what a glorious day. A day like David celebrated. When you can release that burden, say, I am sorry, or say, I am forgiven. And look towards each other and look towards God. In the book of Jeremiah, in chapter 34, we hear these words from God to his people. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they broke my covenant, though I was a husband to them. This is the covenant I will make with the people of Israel after that covenant. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. I love that line. I will forgive their wickedness and remember their sins no more. Understand this. This is not, when we ask for forgiveness from God, it's not as if God is forgetting. It's not as if God is dealing with memory issues. Jesus, God the Father, is purposely forgetting, purposely not remembering our sin. That's a powerful statement. Because God knows we can't walk with that sin. We can't walk with that burden. There's a statement that I love about faith. And the statement is this. Faith is accepting that you are exactly who God sees. Not who you see when you look in a broken mirror. Not a distorted picture. But instead, who God sees. A child of God, loved, cared for, and cherished. My friends, who do you see when you look in the mirror? Who do you see looking back at you? 6 words. I am sorry. You are forgiven. 6 words that will change your life like they changed David's. Are you willing and able to say that? I am sorry. You are forgiven. Those words that Jesus has said to us time and time again. You are forgiven.